When? I'm not going out. I'm a very sensitive guy, and I'm going to feel bad for a long time. But I have babies. I got 2 more in the hopper I don't even know about. And I'm not going to put my life at risk for someone I don't know. Then that just piss you off. Okay, hang on. That was Hollywood. Don't be mad at me. Next Sunday, back at the beach. Everything's laid out. Everybody's having a good time. Only this time it's not your kid, it's my kid out there. 50 yards further than 2 weeks ago when I only had 1 stroke left. What do you think I'm going to do now? Yeah, I know I can't save him. What I want to have happen is Joey stay up long enough for me to get close enough to tell him how much I love him, and then we're both going to go down together. It's my boy. Did I do something morally wrong? We see, as long as you're in your ivory tower, of course I did. Firemen are supposed to run into burning buildings even when they're totally consumed in fire. Ladder 59 with Joaquin Phoenix. Guy risks his life in all kinds of crazy situations. Last scene in the movie is a warehouse burning up. He was told someone's inside. He goes inside. There's no one inside, and he can't get out. And when John Travolta, he's the captain of the fire department, he pulls up in the red truck with his wife knows what's going on. That boy's not coming home ever. He risked his life for nothing. It's a great movie with Ashton Kutcher and Kevin Costner called The Guardian. Kevin Costner's this Coast Guard famous hero out in Kodiak, Alaska, freezing cold, rescuing people whose boats go down. Reputation all over the Coast Guard. He has a bad experience and realizes he's getting a little too old, and his boss makes him go and train these young bucks, and Kutcher's there, and of course his head's this big and he thinks he's going to break every swimming record and and he and Costner do this until they finally work it out, and finally he graduates and he goes up to Kodiak with Costner, and they're going to go out together, and they go out together, and Costner doesn't have the magic anymore, and he realizes it, and they get back to base, and he goes in, he starts packing his stuff to leave. And Costner's Kutcher's hero. He says, before you leave, I have to know one thing. He says, I have to know your number. The number means, well, how many people did you save? Costner's never wanted to share it with him, and he looks at him, and he looks at him, and he looks at him, and he finally says, 22. Kutcher says, 22. Not bad, I thought, and Costner says 22 is the number of people I couldn't save. It's the only number that matters. Those of you who are going to be first responders, you can't save everybody, and you need to deal with it now. I know you're going to be first responders because you feel a moral duty to serve. But there'll come a time when you can't save everybody you want to. And if you don't make the right decision, then you'll go down with the beach ball. And all those lives you could have saved, you can't save. It's the hardest part of being a first responder, having to make the decision. You leave the one seriously injured troop to save 8, because if you save this one, you're going to lose 8 others. It's a moral dilemma. There's a time in your life you have to make a decision. Character is built in the little things of life and tested in the greater things of life. If your character has not been built, you will fail the test in the greater things of life. That's why they have you train over and over and over again to know the difference between possibility and impossibility. Some situations, people, are impossible to resolve. And you have to come to peace with that as much as it bothers you. Now, teleology is something we're born with. Deontology is something we choose. Those of you that are going to be first responders, it's a choice you're making. But once in a while, life will come upon you and have an opportunity to be a deontologist. So this is back in the day when around Washington, D.C., the airport was changed from Dulles Airport, Ronald Reagan Airport. It was the middle of winter. A plane took off. I never did pass drawings, so this is going to look ugly. Gets about a mile out of the airport and it crashes into the Potomac River. It's sub-zero weather. Now, planes are designed to break in 3 places. The cockpit falls off. That's the greatest because usually it does a no-drive. They accept that responsibility. They're in charge. The rear end of the airplane falls off, and that's the safest place to be, but no one wants to sit there, last on, last off. But it's the safest place of an airplane. The middle is the worst because down here is where the fuel is. And if a spark hits that, you're going up in flames. This plane happens to go into the Potomac and breaks apart in 3 pieces, and it turns out there's a fella going over the Potomac Bridge, and he watches it happen. People get thrown out of the airplane. Some of them are still alive. This is frigid water. He stops his car, he looks into it, he makes a quick assessment, and he jumps off and he starts saving lives. He saves about 5 lives before he starts going into hypothermia. About that time, the first responders get there. There's a female reporter happens to show up with the first responders, and when they bring him out and warm him up, she says, "What were you thinking? You could have died doing that." And he says, "Yeah, but if I didn't do it, other people would have died because I was the first on the scene." But he didn't plan on being there, but circumstances put him there. He made a deontological decision. Now, what if he didn't jump in? Is he wrong? Well, when we sit in our ivory tower, we make judgments pretty freely. That's why I thought if I'd have worn the right shoes, I'd asked you to do it for me. Because until you walk in the first responder shoes, you really don't know. Nobody knows. There's a policeman down in Parkland right now who's being fired, and he's going to lose his $100,000 salary because he was on campus and he had a weapon. He did nothing while kids were slaughtered. He's a first responder. That's why he's carrying a weapon. Don't be a first responder if you're not going to do your duty. Was his life at risk? Absolutely. Every day you put a weapon on and you go out there, your life is at risk. I crossed the street one day and a Ford 6,000-pound van ran me over. Could have killed me. In fact, when I came to, that was interesting. When I came to, on August 10th, 1996, they discovered I had stage 4 cancer. 7 years later, on August 11th, they declared me cancer-free. And 2 days later, on August 13th, I'm crossing the street and a 6,000-pound van traveling 20 miles an hour runs me over. I hear this voice in my head saying, "Larry," and I open my eyes. There's blood everywhere because I landed on my face. And it turns out it's an off-duty nurse, bless her heart. She says, "Larry," she says, "do you know what date it is?"
"Yeah, it's August 13th. She goes, "You remember what time it was when you came out?" I said, "Lady, do you need my calendar watch?"
I turned to the right, and there was a state policeman putting a white sheet back in the trunk of his car. You know what the white sheet's for, right? I don't know why we don't deal with death. It happens all around us every day, but we cover it up so we don't have to look at it. Because no one likes looking into that stare. Every once in a while, it may happen in your life that you have a deontological moment. I don't want you to feel guilty if you don't do what is required of deontologists. That's why people volunteer to be first responders, and the rest of us always have to make a decision. Any questions about deontology? Teleology? Deontology works, except when it doesn't work. Teleology works, except when it doesn't work. Everybody with me? Those are the 2 main principles that we will use that will include things like utilitarianism, the greatest happiness for the greatest number. We use that all the time. The only problem with it is it also doesn't work. We use moral virtue. Aristotle develops that along with his teleology, that character is important. What's character? Question, what's character?
Who you are.
Say again?
Who you are.
One more.
Who you are.
Who you are. What else? Character. We all have character or no? Character. Aristotle called character virtue. It's the best that you can be. Whatever it is you are, the best that you can be. In fact, he called it moral virtue. It's a moral responsibility of the state to help us and for us to decide that we're going to be the best that we can be. Your deepest fear is not that you're inadequate. Your deepest fear is that you're powerful beyond measure. It's the light. Kant calls it moral duty. It's a matter of moral responsibility to do the right thing at the right time. No lying, no stealing, no cheating, no raping, no robbing. Red light, green light. If you're at West Point, if you're at the Air Force Academy, if you're at any of the military schools, no cheating. And if you cheat, you get expelled. And if you see someone cheat and you don't turn them in and they find out you knew about it, you leave as well. It's called code and honor. No one left behind on the battlefield. We few, we brave, we band of brothers. Going to save a dead man may well cost you your life. But we have code. We have honor. No one left behind. Kant calls that moral duty. We'll talk about feminist ethics of caring. Whatever happened to caring in the courtroom? The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Is that all there is to justice? Someone falls on hard times. We're not morally responsible to help. John Donne said, "No man is an island unto himself." You're not in this individually. Well, Professor Poller, my aunt died. I had to go to New York. Can you give me an extension? Of course I can. Ethical egoism says, as long as I take everyone's feelings into account, why can't I do what I want to do? I'm not ignoring anyone, I'm just making myself a priority. Those of you that are religious, Christian, or Islamic, in the Western world, we say love your neighbor as you love yourself. What does it mean to love yourself? If you can't put yourself first sometimes, what does it mean? What does it mean to love yourself? Is that strictly egoistic? Or is there something deeper involved there? In our relationship with one, don't forget it says love your neighbor as you love yourself. I'm not preaching to you, I'm just asking you a question. What does it mean when you put your own needs first, after you've considered all needs that are involved? See, if I'm sick and come to the classroom and I infect you, I should have put my own needs first, taken care of my own health, rather than put you at jeopardy. Oh, but Professor, I don't want to miss anything. You won't. It's being recorded. You won't. I fixed it so you won't. Well, we're all embedded in this community because we are embedded in this community as individuals, aren't we?